Hi, and welcome to Haunted AF, the podcast of real ghost stories told by real people. We are your hosts. I'm Julie Fisk.
And I'm Rebecca Black. And oh my goodness, do we have some spooky stories to share today?
Seriously. So much good stuff.
I know. We've got a good, I almost going to repeat your exact words, like exact words.
That's okay. I just realized I don't know. I didn't put the color of the dead pet of the week.
It's going to be a guessing game. I love it.
We're going to have to go through all of the different dead pet of the week theme songs. So
that'll be great. I love it. So yes, we do have a new dead pet of the week story and a shared dream story that's pretty wild. We're also going to talk to a man behind the creepy, gorgeous Instagram page, Places Forgotten, which features abandoned spots like amusement parks, hospitals, and even homes. And before we get started, though, quick reminder that we've got some adorable listener designed merch in our online store right now. I am actually wearing one, the Hey Boo shirt. You can find that all at hauntedaf.com. It's cute, it's cheap, and it's a great way to support us. And this podcast.
So, Rebecca, before we even just get started into the other spooky stories, can I tell you a ghost story?
Of course.
Okay. I taped the other podcast that I work for. It's called Eat, Drink, DFW with the Dallas Morning News.
Y'all should check it out. It's really good. And Julie works her ass off.
And they're going to have to, because I'm going to post a link in this episode.
It's all connected.
Yes, it is, to this particular story, because we had Samir Durander.
That name sounds familiar.
He is the head chef at Nick and Sam's.
That's why I know his name.
Yes, he's kind of like a local celebrity. He's been there for about 24 years. And he came on that podcast because Nick and Sam's is haunted.
No freaking way.
So apparently it was a morgue. It was a morgue, y'all.
And now that you say that, the outside of Nick and Sam's kind of looks like a morgue.
Right. Well, there are no windows. There are 0 windows inside this place, which they did on purpose to, heighten the experience or whatever. And the legend, I'm not sure how this would work, but the story is that when JFK had been shot and they were trying to rush him to Parkland, that they weren't able to get to Parkland at first because there was a whole lot of traffic and they had to stop off at this morgue. So who knows if that's true?
Okay.
That said, Samir has tons of experiences inside this building.
What?
Wonderful. And he talks about just regularly how he will walk in and there's one booth that's always kind of out of the corner of his eye and he can see a group of people sitting there.
That's
all
wild.
the time. And he'll turn to look. No one's there. He's had an experience where he's come in. There was someone sitting there and it's completely not open. There's no one around.
He's
and
like, how'd you get in?
Yeah. He's like, can I help you? And she said, yeah, I'm waiting for my interview. And he was like, oh, okay. So he left, goes back to work, does his thing, comes back when some of the staff is there and asks about this woman. They're like, no one has been here. There's been no interviews. We were the first people here.
What?
So he had another really great experience about sitting in the bar doing paperwork after hours. He said he had a couple of highlighters sitting next to him. And he said they just on their own turned sideways and just roll down the bar. Yeah, he said he was so creeped out. He just got his stuff and left. But then the really fun part, so his wife was there with him.
Okay.
And she said he's even brought things home with him.
Okay. That's when it gets a little sketchy for me.
Yeah. So she said there would have been periods of time where like the TV will be turning on and off by itself, the washer and dryer, they'll be doing it in tandem with each other. And she said that she actually asked someone what do you do when there's all this activity? And they told her well, you have to tell it to stop.
Right.
You have to go in and announce. And she was like, so I walked through, I can't remember if she said she did it or Samir did it, but they made a big deal of, which we've talked about that.
Absolutely.
Tell it to stop, tell it to get out.
Go home.
And she said that it did stop after that.
Wow.
But he had so many awesome stories.
Can we just applaud Samir real quick for that work ethic? He's been the chef there for 24 years and not one ghost has scared him away.
Yeah.
Clearly quitting never crossed his mind.
No. And he said, he must be paid well.
Yeah, he must be. I mean, well, it's Nick and Sam.
It is Nick and Sam. Yeah. But he said that he always feels like it's a good thing. Whatever it is, it's got a good feeling. It doesn't make him scared in any way.
Wow. Oh my gosh. How cool is that?
Yeah. He did I asked, is it possible? Do you think that could be the spirit of maybe someone who used to work there?
Sure.
Because some of the things will be kind of helpful. He will go in planning to do something and then look in the other room when he comes back, whatever it was he was working on is already completed.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I need that ghost in my life.
Seriously. Yeah.
All the laundry would get folded.
Well, when I said that, could it be someone who used to work there? He got kind of he was like, oh, no, I don't like that idea. He likes the idea because then you might know them. He didn't say that, but that would be my guess. you're just dead. And all of a sudden you're in this fancy restaurant filled with like Dallas Cowboys and celebrities. And
what a place to be.
I
like
know.
to haunt people. I want to haunt celebrities.
I would be sitting in the corner booth, like right out of the peripheral vision. So yes, that's Eat Drink DFW. I'm going to post a link to that episode. If you don't want to listen to everybody talking about food, it's like 20 minutes in.
All right. So this next story we got from a listener on Instagram, and we'll just call them Kim. I work at a big medical center, and every October I go around to all the staff bathrooms and post important things on their whiteboards. So she has a poll going on this one asking if anyone has seen ghosts. There's columns for seeing them at home or at work. And so far she has one person who's seen one at home and one at work. So if any of you guys do this, maybe you do it at home, maybe you do it at place of business, whatever, send us your pictures. We would love to share those. And if they have stories, send the stories as well. hauntedaf.com. Nope, hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com.
So I wake in the morning and I see my cat, and I realize he died a few months back, and I turn to my dead ghost dog and say, what the fuck? And I say, hey, 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 hey. I said, hey, dead pet of the week.
I don't even remember who sent that one in. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay.
Beautiful.
So this story comes from Jody Patterson, who just won a Hey Boo sweatshirt.
Hey Boo.
Over on Patreon, because yes, we do giveaways over there. She says, we had a mini schnauzer named Mitzi for almost 14 years. She was a special part of our family and used to lay with us on the couch when we took naps. One day after Mitzi passed, I lay down on the couch and just got comfy when I felt what I completely believed to be her jumping from the footstool over my legs and up to the back of the couch. Then she jumps back over me and was gone. I begged her to come back and lie down with me, but she was gone. We loved her so much, and she just came back for a short hello. Thanks for your podcast. I enjoy it so much. Happy hauntings. And that is from Jody.
So this next one comes from Patrick. My very first paranormal experience happened when I was around 8 years old. I grew up in the country, and my room was at the end of a long hallway. But if I stood in my doorway, I could see the dining room from my room. Some nights I would hear what sounded like furniture being dragged across the floor. We had a linoleum floor, so the sound would kind of echo down the hall. I would tell my mom about it the next morning, but she just chalked it up to the house settling or the air in the pipes.
That's such a parent thing to say.
It absolutely is. Well, late one night, I woke up and I was heading to the bathroom when I saw, with my very own eyes, one of the chairs pull away from the dining table. On its own.
Oh, wow.
I ran to my mom's room, but by the time I dragged her back to the dining room, the chair was tucked back under the table. This happened many times throughout the years I lived there, but never told anyone else because I didn't want people to think I was crazy. In my teen years, I started researching the paranormal and read that spirits can sometimes attach to personal items when they pass. That intrigued me because my dad built the dining room set with his own hands. He passed away from cancer when I was only 2 years old, so I don't remember anything about him. So maybe it was my dad reaching out to me. Maybe he was pulling the chair out because he wanted me to sit and have a talk. I don't know, but it helped me come to terms with what happened in that dining room. From Patrick.
Oh, Patrick, that's beautiful.
That really is a good story.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Patrick, send us a picture of that dining set.
Please.
I want to see what your dad made.
Me too.
So finally, after playing tag for like, how many years now, it seems like?
I think at least 18 months.
At least 18 months. Yeah, we've
It's
got
really been that long.
It's really been that long. Ben from Places Forgotten, our favorite Instagram page.
Oh my gosh, it's so
Really?
good.
Yes, it is.
That's so kind.
Which is gorgeous photos of what appears to be abandoned places.
I'm like, how do you make abandoned places look so like enticing?
Kind of like
gorgeous,
like scary, sexy,
Yeah.
sexy, scary.
Yeah. I get a lot of people message me stuff like, "Oh, you're a fake. These places you go to are not real. They're film sets." Did you ever see the video I did? And it had the pink. They had the pink casket, and it got to like 29 million on TikTok. And I still have people now saying, "Oh, this is a haunted attraction," and I'm thinking, yeah, but other people would have gone. You know?
Right.
They've been charged $10 to go.
Right.
But a lot of the time, they are left as if somebody left one day for work.
Mm-hmm.
The keys are still in the hearses, and the tools are still by the embalming table. So I'm going in years later, and it's like a kind of museum that's been waiting to be seen. So I've been very lucky.
how did you decide this is what you wanted to do?
It's not my job. I do it as a hobby. I don't really make any money from it. I make a bit from TikTok. But no, years ago, I passed an old hotel in England and it was completely untouched. And I walked in and I found a way in. Then it was in the local newspaper and they said, oh, this is a really big deal. Nobody's been in here. It's got security. And I honestly think when I went in, the security were having lunch. People liked the pictures and I thought, oh, you know what? This is fun. It just went from there. I used to love houses. I used to do a lot of houses. And then I kind of got into the weird stuff. Like the trip I just did in the States, I was in Florida, South, North Carolina, and Virginia. And all I did was funeral homes. Every single place I went to was a funeral home. We don't have them in England. So.
You don't?
No, we don't have funeral homes here.
What do you have?
Yeah. What do you do with your dead
boring.
bodies?
We've got morgues. I mean, we've got mortuaries. Some of the mortuaries I've done in England and Europe are amazing, but funeral homes don't exist. The funeral homes that you have with the office, the sofas, the hearses, the embalming rooms, the caskets.
Oh, yeah. The little chapels.
We don't have that here. Remind me, what state are you girls in?
We're in Texas.
Hence the accents. I haven't been to Texas, but I don't think there's much there in terms of urban exploring.
That's where you're wrong.
There's a lot.
There's so much.
Actually,
so much.
Adrian is going to kill me. Abandoned Dallas. You've got shopping malls and stuff.
Oh yeah,
abandoned shopping mall. Yeah, it was just recently at Valley View or whatever that was abandoned. It was abandoned for the longest time, and they just now blew it up and tore it down.
Yeah, I remember because when they left the movie theater open,
right?
So we would go. They would still have screenings there, so we would go to the movie theater, and then you would walk out, and it looked like a zombie attack was gonna hit you. What do you think it is been about abandoned places that really just? It feels so creepy and romantic that just kind of fascinates all of us.
I think anybody who's a fan of fiction, movies, for example, if you're a fan of zombie films, the end of the world, you come out, everything's overgrown, everything's left, everything's deserted. I think people are curious to see things that are off limits. Do you remember when you were a kid and there'd be a thing that said, don't touch, don't go in here, don't do that? You do exactly the opposite from what your parents told you. And in a way, urban exploring is trespassing. Oh, you're not going to do that. Why not? Let's go and see. In England, trespassing isn't a crime, by the way.
It's not?
No. So this is great. It gets me out of a lot of trouble when I'm in the States because people say, oh, you're trespassing. You're not meant to. And I'm like, oh, sorry, in England, it's not breaking the law.
The other thing I wanted to ask, what do you think is the oldest room that you've walked into? The place that's had gone the most amount of time untouched?
It doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, but I did a hospital recently just outside Washington. The mortuary and the pathology labs were all untouched. And it had rows and rows of autopsy files from infants, all from the 70s. And I'm talking thousands upon that. And these were photographs, certificates. You take them out and it had in graphic detail all the autopsy reports, and these were from 1971 onwards. I also did a mortuary in Germany, and it still had the admissions book from the 50s.
Oh, wow.
You see a lot of things online like, oh, this was rediscovered after 100 years. It's probably not true.
We took a road trip to Galveston back in the spring. And I was telling her the story about when I was a little girl, my dad was a dentist and he was looking for a new dental office. And so we were going around like looking at all these different buildings and spaces. And we walked into one room in an old building in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I was just in Charlotte.
You were? Okay. Oh,
beautiful place.
It was an old break room from some business, and they had pretty much just shut the door and walked out. To my young eyes, it looked like it had been abandoned for 100 years, but it probably, a good 20 years, but the ashtrays, plates out, there were cans and enough stuff to where it looked so dated but untouched, and it felt genuinely haunted in the best way.
I did a diner recently actually in New Jersey, and lots of the New Jersey papers wrote about it and made out I spoke to them, and I thought I didn't talk to any of you. They just took my photos off the internet. And that was amazing because you have those diners with the stools at the counter.
Yeah.
My favorite diners, my favorite thing apart from funeral homes, my favorite things too. And that had closed in 2005. My pictures are online, and that still had everything left, even the coffee cups on the counter. And it still had newspapers on the counter with cigarettes in the ashtray from the June 30th, 2005.
No.
And I was like, oh my God, it was amazing.
I can't help but wonder, why is it so abrupt? I would think at least somebody would go back for something. There's got to be something of value that's still in some of these places.
Another diner in Pennsylvania, somebody took the jukebox, which really annoyed me because I didn't get it before they took the jukebox. But that diner was still amazing. That's on my page. I think a lot of it, let's say you're looking at a funeral home or a mortuary or even a diner, maybe they close and they think, oh, you know what? We're going to open again one day. We'll pay these back taxes, for example, or sort out the family issues. We'll shut the door. And it never quite happens. And that happens with a lot of funeral homes. They close, damp sets in, rot sets in, the ceiling starts to set in. You can't get insurance on it then. What are you going to do? So it just sits there.
How do you find these places?
Simple searching. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're visiting New York. Go onto Google, type in funeral homes closed Brooklyn. Within 2 minutes, you're going to find one. Okay, look, it looks closed. Is the website down? It's a phone number offline. Let's take a drive and see about it. Let me knock on a neighbor's door and ask them. And also, people within the community help each other. I just did a trip and I probably had 70% of places given to me by people I know. But then again, if I find somewhere, I'll give it to them. So a lot of it is research. And a lot of it as well is drive-bys. If you're in Georgia or the Carolinas, you just drive around. You'll pass 20 places within an hour on all the back roads.
That was when I was
like extra spooky.
When I was in college, I went to Georgia Southern down in Statesboro for a while, and that's something we would do on the weekends.
That sounds amazing.
We would drive around on the country roads and look for what appeared to be abandoned houses. And we
houses you have to be very careful of in America because some houses look abandoned and they've got broken windows and they're not.
And even if they are, there's probably somebody nearby who owns the property and they'll come by with their shotgun and chase you off. And that happened to us more than once. Have you ever heard about the Land of Oz in the North Carolina mountains?
I have. Yes, I have. It used to be the theme park.
Yes.
And is that the one? And I believe that the Yellow Road still is there.
Yes.
I did in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, I did Ghost Town in the Sky.
Amazing. Amazing.
Have you seen I tell you what isn't amazing, getting to it, because you have to walk up that mountain.
Oh my gosh.
But so tell me about the Land of Oz. That's all I know of it. I've never been.
That's the same thing. I went to it when I was about 4 years old.
You actually went?
I went when I was a little kid, and then it shut down not long after. Same thing. It closes. Everybody just leaves. And then years later, when I was a teenager, we went back, and one of the ski lifts nearby, I think it's Beach Mountain. If you go kind of up to the top of the lift and walk into the woods, you would just come across this yellow brick road.
Yeah.
And so my sister went to college there, and she took us and we found the yellow brick road, and it was amazing because we walked all through the Land of Oz, and they still had the way that you would get from one end of the park to the other were these hot air balloon gondolas that would carry you across. And the gondolas were still there, missing the balloons. So they're just these balloon skeletons that looked amazing. And recently, people went in and they've kind of updated it. They will still reopen it, I think, like once or twice a year now.
I feel like it made an episode of one of those history shows.
Probably.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that must have been great because you went as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going back.
And I went back. So
cool.
I knew what it was going to look like. So it made it really, really special. I'm so envious of what you do.
Same.
But you also should be making millions of dollars about
Agreed.
this.
I'm trying to get a book published at the minute, which is proving really hard. I want a book of photographs.
Yes.
It's very difficult. There was talk of a TV show as well.
That needs to happen as well.
Discovery Channel, that would be good. But
I'm glad that you still love it, though.
Yeah.
You clearly still have a passion for it.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's nothing better than going into a place and you finally go in and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to shoot this. And it's the best feeling. And a lot of my friends don't get it, but everybody's a bit weird, aren't they, in their own way?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
This is my jam, though.
I know. It's like right up my alley. Like, please come to Texas soon so that we can hang out and go haunt some places.
Absolutely.
When I was, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you stories now.
I like
that's how much we love you.
When I was a kid, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for a while, and I
love it. That's where I flew home from.
Atlanta has the Biltmore Hotel, and so it was closed down for a while. I think they went in and renovated and updated, but in its heyday, like that's where the cast of Gone with the Wind stayed during the big premiere of the movie. So it used to be this really beautiful place. But when we were kids, we learned how you could pay off a security guard who would let you into this one area and then you could get in. I mean,
that sounds amazing. That's better than what I did. I built skateboard ramps. Yeah, I'd rather been doing that. I'm trying to get into that hotel in Colorado, the Stanley.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really want to go there and do a video. And they pretty much really nicely told me to F off. But
Why?
I'm going to keep trying. I said, listen, I'm happy paying. I think they thought I was trying to get a discount, which I
Sure.
was.
Yeah,
well, of
it's
course.
good.
But I really want to do that because I've got friends that have been. The Cecil Hotel would have been good, but that's back up and running now.
Since we are a paranormal podcast, we do have to ask, when you've been in any of these creepy places, have you ever had any strange experiences?
A few times. I mean, a lot of people think, you see these YouTube videos, and no disrespect for YouTubers because they're doing their own thing, but some YouTubers will say, oh, we went into a place and every single time we're attacked by a demon. And then I've gone in and nothing happened. But no, there have been times. I mean, I did. It takes a lot to spook me. I was in Italy with my friend David and we did an asylum. And when I say this place was hard to get into, I mean, it took us, I think, 3 hours to get in. It was so secure. And we did the top floors where they had the patient rooms. And this place really mistreated its residents. We'll call them residents. It chained them to the beds. It did electroshock therapy, all kinds of things. Think about it now, it gives me goosebumps and it's weird for me. We heard literally, as if it was 6 feet away, 3 very, very specific bang, bang, bang on this bed frame. As clear as day. We were literally 6 foot from the room. We'd just been in there. There was no bird. There was no windows in this room. So we were like, no.
Time to go.
I'm gonna pretend it didn't happen. Move along.
Yeah. A lot of funeral homes I've been in have always had human remains left in there. Human remains. Boxes and boxes and boxes. I just did a TikTok video now and it had boxes of remains and it had a human rib left in the embalming room.
A rib?
Yeah, human rib. And a lot of these funeral homes have very, very negative energy left. I did one place in Paris. Literally, it was the weirdest thing. There was a dried human brain left on the side in the lab.
Dried human brain.
No.
Yeah, it's on my video if you see it.
Wait,
I need to watch that.
Where's the video?
All these are on my TikTok.
And it's Places Forgotten as well.
Places_forgotten. And there was liver and lungs in there in jars.
For the record, I'm going to haunt the shit out of anybody if you leave my stuff in jars, especially if you let my brain dry out on a counter.
I have a real fear that my ashes are going to be at Goodwill one day.
Oh,
yeah.
It does happen. I think that'll happen to me because I don't have any kids.
My cousin spilled my grandmother's ashes in her purse at my wedding.
Oh, my God.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she did.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Why were there ashes at the wedding? Did she want to be there effectively in spirit?
She wanted Granny to be there.
That's actually kind of sweet.
But a lot of the funeral homes have a very bad feeling to them. Some of the hospitals as well. There's a hospital I did in Georgia. That's also on my TikTok. I'm doing a real plug here of the TikTok. Yeah. It was called, I named it the Resident Evil Hospital. And this place was pitch black inside, but everything was left in there. All the operating rooms, the patient rooms, the monitors, everything was left. It was like literally they shut the door and they closed one day and they never went back.
Man.
And I remember walking through there in the pitch dark and the feeling of dread I had in there was so heavy. When people say, oh, I saw demons or ghosts or anything, maybe they do, but a lot of it is like the energy and that kind of really, really kind of sucks out of you. Come out thinking, oh, this is horrible. I want to leave. And you don't leave because you want to stay. But
you mentioned Paris. Have you done the catacombs yet?
Not yet. I need to, but I need to find someone reliable who can take me because you can get lost down there.
Yeah.
I did a tour, I don't know how many years ago, of the catacombs or whatever. And it's like, don't touch any of the bones. And then there I am like, let me touch them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's people that will take you down to the really good bits off limits to the public.
Oh, really?
You've got to be careful. Oh, yeah. But you've got to be careful because if you get lost down there, you're never coming out.
You'll be part of the exhibit.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love for somebody to tickle my bones.
No, you wouldn't.
But no, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do Chernobyl as well.
Dude, that's my dream.
No, both of you are stuff. So y'all saw the dark tourism or dark tourist episode David Farrier did.
Oh, yeah.
When they went out there.
I didn't see that.
They were testing all the radiation levels.
There are people you can pay. I've got them on my Instagram. And they're like, if you come, pay me under the table and I'll take you to the places that the tourists don't see.
Please go.
Okay, well, since you'll go to Chernobyl, is there any place you won't go to? I'm
looking at Japan. I really need to get to Japan.
Yeah.
Because Japan is amazing for urbex. Is there anywhere I wouldn't go?
Wait, what do you call it?
Urbex is short for urban exploring.
All right.
But I hate the phrase. I'm just going to say photography.
Which is what you're doing.
Exactly.
No, there's not really anywhere I wouldn't go. I'd like to go to Kazakhstan. There's some space shuttles, but I think you have to walk 17 miles through a desert and there's armed guards with machine guns. I actually looked at flights and it's very hard. So no, long story short, there's not really anywhere I wouldn't go. America still has a lot One place I'd love to do, it's never going to happen. Upstairs at Graceland, because you know the story about upstairs?
No.
Well, obviously that's where Elvis died.
Oh, yeah, but
And they locked it up and they've left it ever since.
I did not know that.
Yeah. You know, could you imagine? That would be amazing. But I think if I did it, even trespassing, I'd probably get sued like massively.
Well,
So
of course.
I shouldn't even think about it as if I'm going to be able to go. The doors will be locked. It's a fantasy.
Let me ask you, would you go, even if you could never share the photos or show anybody, would you go just to see it?
Oh, yeah, because the photos would be in my mind.
Yeah, I would go too.
But I don't think they'd give me permission. Apparently all his clothes are still in the wardrobe, the bed's made, like the prescription bottles are on the side. If you Google it, there's a couple of photos.
You're almost celebrating these places that got kicked to the curb, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a story behind it, sometimes a tragic story. Mm-hmm. And we're going like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, but actually, why does this happen? Nobody thinks of that. We're just like happy to be there.
Thank you so much. Truly, I huge respect for what you do. Love your page, love your photos, and you need to be a gazillionaire because you're so good at what you do.
Thank you. Check out the videos. I think you'll like them.
Oh yeah,
we will.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, girls.
So guys, don't forget that is places_forgotten. Look for it on Instagram and on TikTok. How amazing was he?
So good. I love him. I love him. I want to marry him.
I'm so jealous.
Me too. He really better call us if he comes to Dallas.
I know, but it's pretty much just breaking and entering over and over again.
With. Aren't you?
If nobody's there, I mean, you heard me.
Who's gonna know? Are the ghosts gonna call the cops on us? No, I don't think so.
Okay, so this next story comes from John Lewis. Hi, Julie and Rebecca. First of all, thank you for featuring my story about the Duppy house. Remember that? Okay. However, I realize I hate the sound of my voice. So this next experience will be typed out for you both. For the record, we always love your voices.
Absolutely.
And I know your voice might bug you, but the rest of us love it. And honestly, the weirder the voice, the more we love it. So this occurred when I was about 12 years old and visiting my cousin, Daryl. Does everybody have a cousin, Daryl?
Yeah.
My other cousin, Daryl.
I was like, what is Bob Newhart?
Bob Newhart,
I knew the reference.
He didn't live far from my parents' home, so I loved spending the night at his house. We would do the usual kid stuff like play video games, practice wrestling moves on each other, the ordinary. One thing I remember vividly about my cousin's house is that the other family members said it, quote, felt weird. I, however, never experienced anything until that one night. My cousin's bedroom was in their finished basement and was newly renovated at the time. When we finally fell asleep that night, I had the craziest dream. I dreamt I was in a desolate area next to a tall cliff. My cousin was a few feet away from me, pointing and yelling at something, but I couldn't hear him. When I turned to look, huge claw-like hands came up the side of the cliff and then straight towards us. Oh, no. Naturally, I started hauling ass, but I simply wasn't fast enough. I felt something grab me and drag me to the cliff's edge. I was kicking and screaming, trying so hard to hold on as my hands started to slip. And then I woke up. It took a few minutes to get my bearings, but I realized I was hanging more than halfway off my cousin's bed. I looked over at my cousin and he was in almost the exact same position as me.
Okay, that's freaky.
Before I could say anything, he woke up and said, "Did you see it?" Chills started running down my spine. I said, "The claw?" And he said, "Yes." Then we booked it back up to the main floor. Now, we asked my aunt and uncle if anybody had been down in the basement, and they said no. So we went back down just for a second look and noticed that the covers we had been using were all over the basement, as if somebody had thrown them.
Man,
I've never had a dream as vivid as that before or since, and I've never had a shared dream again. It was the last time I slept over at my cousin's, though. I asked my cousin about it years later, and he didn't remember much. He said that he had so many experiences in that basement, he'd rather forget all of it. And honestly, I don't blame him. And that is from John.
Wow.
Oh, John, we need to talk to your cousin.
Oh, I know. I need to make him remember. Like I make him remember.
We need more shared dream stories.
Absolutely. God, that's so freaky. Have you ever had a dream? I can't remember. Have we? I couldn't remember if we talked about that or not.
I had one with one of my old roommates. You remember we had the shared dream story about the werewolves where the woman and her husband would turn into werewolves at night. And I love those. So
I want to have one of those.
Send those stories, hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Before we go, we need to say thanks to our newest patron, Ashton. Hi, Ashton. Also to Mark Mendoza, who just became an annual patron. Thank you so much, you guys. And if you're all caught up and you want some exclusive content, please check it all out at patreon.com/hauntedaf. There's tons of stuff there.
And next week, we're going to be giving away multiple items.
Woo-hoo.
And listen, October is already coming to an end. So next week is one of your last chances to share a scary story with us. Write it, record it, film it, whatever you want, but send it now to hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com so we could use it on the final Haunted AF, or final for now.
We don't know.